Hello. I haven't voted since the year 2000. When I finally got it through my head, it doesn't matter who I vote for. The selection is for who best fits the agenda. Politicians all lie, and so does the media. As a matter of fact, the entire platform was organized by the intelligence agencies to simply formulate useless distractions. Actors deliver the copy to an unsuspecting audience weaned on propaganda. When putting this together, it was quite easy to find mainstream accountings of Joe Biden's history of lying to the public. Now, I know Donald Trump has a history of his own. It just wasn't as easy to find. All that's available is on MSNBC, CNN, NYT, WAPO, etc., known manufacturers of agenda-driven propaganda. Yes, Fox News is as well, but I'll never find anything there either. Trump is a buffoon. He's nothing but a carnival barker that buys into his own drivel.
One thing I can promise you this: I will always tell you the truth.
I've been in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq 28 times. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 29 times. I've been in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq over 30 times.
I haven't had a chance to examine them as a lawyer. I'm doing it as a friend of Donald Trump's. I've known him for 28 years. I've been in every circumstance imaginable with him, I think. I've seen him with women all the time. I know men who are inappropriate, and I don't like it. I've never seen him one time, act inappropriate. I've never seen him one time act inappropriate.
You know, you're really beautiful.
I'll go backstage before a show, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it.
I've never seen him one time act inappropriate.
I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
I can do anything.
I've never seen him one time act inappropriate.
This may be the best of all.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
I've never seen him one time act inappropriate.
Keep going. Oh. Donald, I thought you were a gentleman.
You can't say I didn't try.
Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife is sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get the university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous. I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children.
The health of our children.
The quality of our education.
The quality of their education.
The joy of their play.
Or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that.
The truth is, whether we know it or not, all of these politicians use one another's speeches and addresses all the time. They use whatever they're told to use, and the public either enjoys it or not. But don't whine about whether he or she stole it or wrote it for themselves. Who cares? They don't.
Here to sing the theme from Green Acres, please welcome Donald Trump and Will and Grace's Karen Walker.
acres is the place to be. Farm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside.
Why does Joe Biden make so much stuff up? And will it hurt him against Trump in the general election? There's much talk online, especially among Bernie Sanders supporters, about whether Joe Biden is in cognitive decline, whether he has dementia, why he's so incoherent. Now, I'm no doctor, I'm not going to make a medical diagnosis, apart from to say that in terms of his speech and his memory, there's clearly undeniably been a lot of decline in recent years.
My name's Joe Biden, I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
But today, forget the weird stuff that Biden says that doesn't make any sense.
This may sound like lunacy, but this only matters to those caught up in this dog and pony show, organized for us by those behind the scenes, the ones both sides of the coin refer to as the deep state. You see, they depend on us getting caught up in all the drama scripted for us by them, all the nonsense about who's telling the truth, who's plagiarizing whom.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Forget all of that though, and focus on his falsehoods. The fact that he just makes stuff up, that he does seem to be a fabulist. Here are just 5 examples. Number 1, his arrest in apartheid South Africa. The former vice president said 3 times during the month of February alone that he got...
Think about it. Whether these guys lie or they don't, how much has any of it benefited the status quo in the last 100 years or so?
Billions and 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 billions.
Is any of this out of context? Considering the content of this subject, that very statement would be an oxymoron. We live within a world run by a sect of humanity that has never had our best interests at heart.
I know more than most people know, and I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on? Let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's do Number two. No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that on MSNBC. You did not hear that. But you heard. Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do. But look, Fat, look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does.
Let him talk. Any other questions?
Yeah, all right. I'm not voting for you.
Well, I knew you weren't, man. You think I thought you'd stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me.
We built the greatest economy in the history of the world. Best unemployment numbers, best everything. And I gave you the biggest tax cut in the history of our country.
We spend our collective attention divided amongst ourselves, canceling any potential of authentic progress by arguing on social media platforms owned and operated by those who also own and control the entire political arena. Most of us have all heard this before, but we've also believed our favorite news delivery platforms when they've told us this is simply conspiracy theory. Which, by the way, is a common issuance by both the left and the right. common ground shared by the overall mechanism of control.
The first is to restore the soul of the nation, and the second is to rebuild the backbone of this nation. And the third is to unify this nation. We always do better when we act as one America. The stock market is roaring, but you don't feel it. There was a $2 trillion tax cut last year. Did you feel it? Did you get anything from it? Of course not. Of course not. All of it went to folks at the top and corporations that pay no taxes. The number of corporations that pay no taxes now has doubled since that tax. Only thing that stands in our way is our broken political system that's deliberately being undermined by our president to continue to abuse the power of the office. Donald Trump is the only president who's decided not to represent the whole country. Unity over division, and maybe most importantly, truth over lies.
12 years ago, I was named Man of the Year of Michigan. Can you believe it? Long before I thought about it. You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden. Who would believe this? Sweden.
Problem is, nothing much had happened in Sweden.
Sweden is accusing Trump of fake news.
By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. If you don't test, you don't have any cases. If we stop testing right now, we'd have very few cases, if any. This is going to go away without a vaccine. It's going to go away, and we're not going to see it again.
Donald Trump tells more lies and falsehoods than any president in either party in history.
I have to be always very truthful, because if I'm a little bit off, they call me a liar.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Instead, we fail ourselves, each other, and most importantly, our children. Generations of us have willfully fallen victim to nothing more than a trap. But it's not that simple. Many are very aware of the engineering and division of the public over the last 3 years. The pall cast over this entire world. It was especially devastating to children and older adults. Worse, it continues.
The latest, New Mexico and Rhode Island. But there are new concerns this morning as the CDC is looking into reports that a very small number of teenagers, just several dozen, who received the COVID vaccine have experienced heart problems with a condition called myocarditis.
We don't really know if this is just the normal background rate that we see in age groups, young age groups, or whether it's related to the vaccine.
The CDC found reports of the condition seem to occur predominantly in adolescents and young adults.
So we are seeing the cases decrease, which is all good. We're seeing vaccinations increase, which is good. But we're also hearing something from the CDC. They're investigating a possible link between a heart condition and the vaccine in teens and young adults. What do we know?
Keyword possible. So here's the latest on this. First of all, just some terminology. This is a condition called myocarditis. That refers to an inflammation of the heart muscle. Right now, there are only 14 cases. Luckily, most of them are mild. The vast majority presented about 4 days after the second dose, more common in men compared to women, by the way. And right now, what's really important as you hear this headline, the number they are seeing is not greater than the background rate that we normally see every day, every year in this country, but the CDC is looking into it.
8:05, it's time for your morning rush here. The CDC says there could be a safety issue with Pfizer's updated COVID-19 vaccine. New numbers reveal a possible increase in a certain type of stroke in people 65 and older who recently received one of the updated boosters. This potential risk was detected using a monitoring system that call the vaccine safety data link. Seniors might be more likely to have these kinds of strokes within the first 3 weeks after the shot compared with weeks 4 through 6.
Several dozen reports that teenagers and young adults may have developed a heart condition after getting vaccinated against COVID-19. While the agency has not determined whether the vaccine caused the condition, it is alerting pediatricians to be on the lookout for symptoms. The cases seem to appear about 4 days after some teenagers and young adults received their second dose of the Pfizer or Moderna shot. Dr. Mobeen Rathore is a professor and chief of infectious diseases at the University of Florida College of Medicine and joins us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, doctor. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
So, we've all seen and heard the conflicting stories about the vaccines. Many of us feel safer if we've not had a specific vaccine in question. But we all do know none of these manufacturers will be held responsible. Absolution from all legal recourse had been arranged prior to the release of any vaccine. So does it really matter which specific jab we've had? And what about our kids? Does anyone really believe either of these clowns or any of the institutions they represent will come to our collective aid if something happens in the long or short term, to us or our children? We all know the answer to that. Stop following this stuff and instead begin depending on what you already know to be helpful. Your own mind. Take a look at the last 3 years.
Quest of food.
People are suffering. People are dying.
I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern over the global outbreak of coronavirus.
Then disinfection begins.
Just don't touch me. I don't want germs.
And we're deeply concerned
made sure to touch every media microphone as he left.
By the alarming levels of inaction.
The coronavirus action plan, wash your hands.
Keep it in your handkerchief.
2 times happy birthday twice. So I shook hands with everybody.
hand washing technique for little hands.
Coronavirus. They're politicizing it. And this is their new hoax.
This is not the Republicans versus the Democrats. They got us in the hole.
This dad doesn't stop pouring steak from his daughter's water bottle.
Sam, by the way, this is Jürgen Klopp.
Today, start working on not touching your face.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Put your hand on that television set. Yes, according to the Word of God.
You're saying silver solution would be effective.
The worrying thing is many countries have already given up on containment.
We've got to do something fast.
To be under isolation.
It's on. It's on.
Hello, good evening, and remain indoors.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying.
We having day parties outing before everything closes.
Jacking up all their prices.
Exploiting moments of crisis.
I don't take responsibility at all.
I don't want anyone's life on my hands.
Take care of me, won't you, Peter?
Just try to get some sleep, man. Save his strength.
Before he passed away.
Yeah.
Crisp new bill should be ready to change hands.
A pandemic meant an opportunity.
$70 a bottle. Would you say you're sorry?
Victims of a system.
No, I don't think that I would.
Supplies are being rationed to keep up with the unprecedented coronavirus panic shop. Relax. We're doing great.
The next wave of infection.
Buying guns.
Booming business.
If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun. Have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun. And I promise you, as I told my wife, we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to... You don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, it's harder to use, and in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun.
What do we really know? What do you know? In the coming months, things are going to change. The television will not be your friend, but rather a disinformation tool for everyone running this kabuki theater. If you don't already, get to know your neighbors. Let them know where you live and you're around to give them a hand if they need it. Stock up on a few staple household items. Make sure you have a little cash on hand. Don't depend on the TV for information. Instead, build your community.